If you asked 100 Americans to name a gun, most of them would say the same word. Not Remington, not Winchester, not Smith & Wesson. Colt. A name so deeply welded into the American story that it stopped being a brand a long time ago and became a myth. The revolver on Wyatt Earp's hip at the OK Corral. The sidearm on General Patton's belt as he rolled through North Africa. The six-shooter in every Western that Hollywood ever made. For 150 years, Colt did not just make guns. It made the image of America itself, the idea that one man with one weapon could change everything. They called its most famous revolver the Peacemaker. They called it the gun that won the West. The company that built it could not win its own war. It went bankrupt twice, lost its biggest customer, and was sold to a company in the Czech Republic for $220 million. The most American name in the history of firearms now belongs to Prague. This is the rise and fall of Colt, the peacemaker that lost its own war. Samuel Colt is born on July 19, 1814, in Hartford, Connecticut. His mother dies when he is 6. His father, a textile merchant, sends him to work in a factory at 11. By the time he is 15, Colt is obsessed with two things: explosions and mechanics. At 16, he talks his way onto a merchant ship heading to Calcutta. Somewhere on the Atlantic, watching the ship's wheel turn, he notices the mechanism that locks the wheel into position. A ratchet and a pawl. A cylinder that rotates and clicks into place. Colt carves a wooden model from a scrap of wood on that ship. It is a rough cylinder with chambers that align one at a time with a single barrel. He is 16 years old and he has just sketched the concept that will change the history of warfare. Colt spends the next several years raising money any way he can. He tours the country under the name Dr. Colt, performing laughing gas demonstrations for paying audiences. He uses the profits to fund prototypes. In 1835, he secures a British patent. In 1836, the United States government grants him a patent for his revolving firearm. He is 22. That same year, he founds the Patton Arms Manufacturing Company in Paterson, New Jersey. The Colt Patterson revolver, a 5-shot single-action pistol, is the first commercially produced repeating handgun in America. It is elegant, slim, and revolutionary. It is also a commercial disaster. The guns are expensive to make. Government contracts do not arrive. Quality control is inconsistent. In 1842, 6 years after it opened, the Patterson factory closes. Samuel Colt is 28 years old, broke, and out of business. The story should have ended there. It does not. In 1846, the Mexican-American War breaks out. A Texas Ranger captain named Samuel Walker contacts Colt. Walker has used the Patterson revolvers against Comanche raiders on the Texas frontier. He knows the design works. He also knows what is wrong with it. Too fragile, too small, not enough firepower. Walker proposes a bigger, heavier, more powerful revolver. Colt has no factory. He partners with Eli Whitney Jr., son of the cotton gin inventor, and builds the revolver in Whitney's Connecticut workshop. The result is the Colt Walker, a massive 6-shot 44 caliber revolver. It is the most powerful handgun in the world in 1847. The government orders 1,000 of them. Samuel Colt is back in business. By 1855, Colt has built the largest private armory on Earth on the banks of the Connecticut River in Hartford. The factory is topped with a blue onion dome that can be seen for miles. Inside, it is a marvel of industrial engineering. Interchangeable parts, machine-driven production lines. Colt is not just a gun maker, he is a pioneer of American manufacturing. When visitors from Europe tour the factory, they call the production method the American system of manufacturing. They take the idea home and build their own industrial revolutions with it. The dome on the Hartford factory becomes a landmark. For decades, it is one of the most recognized industrial buildings in the United States. Then the Civil War erupts. Colt's factory runs at full capacity. Revolvers and rifles pour out of Hartford by the tens of thousands for the Union Army. Colt is one of the wealthiest men in America. He lives in a mansion called Armsmere, overlooking the factory. He has a wife, Elizabeth, and a young son, Caldwell. On January 10, 1862, Samuel Colt dies of gout. He is 47 years old. He does not live to see the end of the war his factory is helping to win. 2 years later, in 1864, a fire tears through the Hartford factory and destroys much of it. Elizabeth Colt, who inherited the company, rebuilds it. The famous dome goes back up. The production lines restart. The company survives both its founder's death and the fire that nearly leveled it. But Samuel Colt's ghost will haunt the brand forever, because the company will spend the rest of its existence trying to live up to a legend it can never replicate. In 1873, Colt introduces the single-action Army revolver. It is chambered in .45 Colt, a brand new metallic cartridge. The United States Army adopts it immediately. The first government order is 8,000 revolvers. Over the next 2 decades, the Army buys 37,000. The civilian market buys even more. The revolver earns a nickname almost instantly: the Peacemaker. The name sticks because it tells a story Americans want to believe: that one well-made weapon in the right hands can bring order to chaos. The Peacemaker is carried by Wyatt Earp, by Pat Garrett, by Billy the Kid. It sits on the hips of cowboys, marshals, outlaws, and settlers from Missouri to California. In 1878, Colt chambers the revolver in .44-40 Winchester, the same cartridge used in the Winchester 1873 lever-action rifle. A man can now carry a Colt on his hip and a Winchester on his saddle, both loaded with the same ammunition. It is the most practical weapon system on the frontier. 1 cartridge, 2 weapons. That combination arms more settlers, lawmen, and outlaws than any other in the history of the American West. Dime novelists and newspaper reporters call it the gun that won the West. They are not exaggerating. Between 1873 and 1941, Colt produces 357,000 Peacemakers. A new one costs $17 by mail order. Adjusted for today, that is roughly $500. The gun is not cheap, but it is not a luxury. It is a tool, and for 7 decades, it is the most recognized handgun on the planet. General George Patton carries an ivory-gripped Peacemaker on his hip through North Africa, Sicily, France, and Germany. When asked about it, he calls it his killing gun. The revolver is now in the West Point Museum. The man who carried it believed that a Colt was the only sidearm worthy of a general. He was not alone in that belief. Then comes the 20th century, and Colt keeps winning. In 1911, the company begins producing the M1911 pistol, designed by John Moses Browning. It is a .45 caliber, semi-automatic, and it is built like a vault. The United States military adopts it as its standard sidearm. It will remain in that role for 75 years, the longest-serving military handgun in American history. Every branch, every conflict, every theater of war, from the trenches of France to the jungles of Vietnam. If an American soldier carried a pistol between 1911 and 1986, the odds are overwhelming that it said Colt on the slide. During both World Wars, Colt is one of the largest arms suppliers to the Allied forces. The factory in Hartford runs day and night. Millions of weapons crossed the Atlantic with the Colt name stamped into the steel. By the end of the Second World War, Colt has armed the United States military for 4 consecutive conflicts. No other private company in the country has done that. In the 1960s, Colt acquires the manufacturing rights to the AR-15, a lightweight rifle designed by Eugene Stoner. The military designates it the M16. It becomes the standard infantry rifle of the Vietnam War and every American conflict that follows. The M16 is not a perfect weapon. Early versions jam in the heat and humidity of Southeast Asia, but the design is refined, and the rifle becomes the backbone of American infantry for the next half-century. Between the Peacemaker, the M1911, and the M16, Colt now owns 3 of the most important firearms designs in the history of the United States military. No other company in the world can say that. And this is the peak. This is as high as it gets. In 1985, the workers at Colt's Hartford factory go on strike. The United Auto Workers demand higher wages. The strike lasts 5 years. 5 years. Replacement workers are brought in. They do not have the same skills. Quality drops. Tolerances slip. The guns leaving the factory are not the same guns that earned the name. Customers notice. The military notices. In 1988, the United States military pulls the M16 production contract from Colt and hands it to Fabrique Nationale, a Belgian manufacturer. The contract that had kept Colt financially alive since Vietnam is gone, handed to a foreign company because Colt could no longer build its own rifle to standard. At the same time, the civilian handgun market shifts under Colt's feet. Glock, an Austrian company, arrives in America with a polymer-framed pistol that is lighter, cheaper, holds more ammunition, and never seems to malfunction. Police departments across the country switch from Colt revolvers to Glocks almost overnight. The revolver era is over. Colt's answer is the Colt 2000 pistol, a semi-automatic designed to compete. It is described by the company's own historian as an embarrassing failure. The gun that won the West is now losing to a plastic pistol from Austria. In 1992, Colt files for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. The company that armed the Union Army, the United States Cavalry, 2 World Wars, Korea, and Vietnam is broke. It restructures. It survives. But the pattern is set. After September 11th, demand for the M4 carbine, a shorter variant of the M16, surges. Colt holds the patent. Orders pour in. The company stabilizes. Then the patent expires. Competitors flood the market with their own versions. Bushmaster overtakes Colt in civilian AR-15 sales. In 2007, the Army conducts an extreme dust test on 4 rifles. Colt's M4 finishes last. Special operations units begin replacing it years before the Pentagon officially moves on. In 2013, the military contract goes to FN again. The same Belgian company that took the M16 contract 25 years earlier now takes the M4 contract too. In June 2015, Colt Defense files for Chapter 11 bankruptcy for the second time. They report $350 million in debt. That is 179 years after Samuel Colt received his patent. The company that invented the American revolver, that armed the Western frontier, that built the factory the world called the birthplace of modern manufacturing, is once again insolvent. Colt emerges from bankruptcy in January 2016. New ownership, new management. The company begins rebuilding its revolver line. The Cobra. The King Cobra. In 2020, the Python returns, Colt's legendary double-action revolver, reintroduced in stainless steel. The reviews are strong. For a brief moment, it looks like Colt might find its way back. But the finances do not hold. The civilian market is crowded. The military contracts are gone. The brand recognition is enormous. The balance sheet is not. On February 12, 2021, the Česká zbrojovka Group, a Czech firearms manufacturer headquartered in Prague, announces the acquisition of Colt for $220 million. The deal closes in May. A year later, the Czech company renames itself Colt CZ Group. It takes the American name and puts it on a European holding company. The revolver that won the American West now belongs to a country most Americans cannot find on a map. The factory in West Hartford still operates. The workers still stamp the rearing stallion logo onto steel. Under CZ's ownership, the quality has reportedly improved. New models are coming. Investment is real. But the name on the building belongs to Prague, not Hartford. Somewhere in America tonight, in a glass case or a leather holster or a safe bolted to the floor of a ranch house, there is a Colt single-action army that someone's great-grandfather carried. The case-hardened frame has faded to a soft gray. The walnut grips are smooth from a century of handling. The cylinder still clicks into place with the same mechanical certainty it had the day it left the factory in Hartford, whenever that was. 1884, 1902, 1938. It does not matter. The gun still works. It was built too. That revolver is the last piece of the company Samuel Colt built. Not the CZ Group earnings report, not the Prague Stock Exchange listing, not the rebranded holding company that took the American name, because the American name is worth more than anything the Czech Republic ever manufactured. The old six-shooter in the old case doing the old job. Samuel Colt carved a wooden cylinder on a merchant ship in 1830. He was 16. He failed, went broke, came back, built the largest armory in the world, and died at 47. The company he left behind armed every major American conflict for 150 years. It built the revolver that tamed the frontier. It built the pistol that served the military for 75 years. It built the rifle that went to Vietnam, Iraq, and Afghanistan. And then it lost every contract, went bankrupt twice, and was sold to a company 6,000 miles away that had never set foot on American soil until it wrote the check. They called the gun the Peacemaker because they believed it could end a fight before it started. They were right. For 150 years, nothing ended a fight faster than the sight of a Colt in someone's hand. But the Peacemaker could not save the company that made it. It could not stop the strikes, the lost contracts, the failed products, the mounting debt, and the foreign acquisition. The gun that won the West could not win the war being fought inside its own walls. That is how you lose the most famous name in the history of American firearms. Not in a duel, not on a battlefield, not in a fair fight. You lose it slowly, contract by contract, year by year, until the name is worth more than the company, and someone from across the ocean writes a check for both.